Inforce Wild2. Howdy y'all and welcome back. This is a piece that I've been waiting for since I first saw their promo pictures on the Instagram months and months ago, and I missed the first couple of rounds. They sold out right away. Finally got my hands on one. Thank you so much to all my Patreon supporters and those of y'all kicking down through Buy Me a Coffee, link in the description, because y'all are making this possible. I am entirely viewer funded and I cannot do this without your support. So thank you so much. And if you're a regular viewer and you're not kicking down $5 a month, come on, you got $5 a month. Get with it. Help a brother out. All right. So the Wild 2. This is aiming right at the SurefireX300, Streamlight, TLR1 kind of category. And so the X300 is what I'm doing a comparo against as far as the beam pattern, what it looks like. But I'm just going to jump out ahead of y'all real quick. This is a little bit to me like when people compare Canics to Glocks. My regular viewers know what I'm talking about. Just as good. I am not even going to try to say that this light is just as good as a SurefireX300 or the Streamlight. I'm not there yet. It will take years before I'm ready to say just as good. As far as quality goes. Now, the performance as far as just right out of the box, putting batteries in them and comparing them side by side, you're about to see the difference. And there is a difference. Now, my personal history with Inforce, I have an APLC. It's treated me totally fine. 200 lumens, it's a little weak, but I've had no issues with it whatsoever. It's got thousands of rounds on it, keeps on trucking. But I'm well aware of the issues with their early iterations of the APL, the larger, however many lumens that one was, had all kinds of problems. And the WML, as far as I know, is still having some issues. People are still not crazy about those. Everybody loves the way they look and the idea of them, but the actual performance history has not been stellar. So, yeah, I get it. I hear you. Now, from all accounts, Inforce has done a lot of research and a lot of development into this light to make it better. Right away, I've already seen a couple of complaints on the internet of people having some issues with theirs. We will see. I mean, only time can tell. That's my pick with Canic. Only time, years, decades, will tell how a system performs. And if you need the best of, just best, then get the Surefire. Streamlight, if you're on a budget, that's how we roll, right? But to steal a Coleon Noirism, it's the design language of Inforce that I love. I love that it doesn't have all kinds of shitty script and writing and shit all over it and warnings and whatever. It's just a black light with cool ass lines. It flows well with the Glock or with my super jazzy M&P here, and that's what I dig on it. So I have my Surefire hooked up on my Glock 19, and if I need bomb proof, there we go. I've got that. This is for the sake of finding out and gun channel and looking sexy, and damn, it does. So let's take this over to the table and get a little bit closer look, and then I'll show you the beam comparisons that I filmed last night. All right, so the first thing before I forget, I wanted to point out that this was a huge win. The Wild 2 on my M&P works perfectly in my Safariland holster made for the X300. So I don't have to buy a whole ass other holster, and that is a giant win for me. So let's get that out of the way and get a little bit closer look. As I was mentioning, it has nice clean lines and doesn't have all kinds of script and writing and shit all over it. And it has a very similar to the X300 knob. And I don't have it on particularly tight, so we can just pull that off. And you can see they basically kind of bit right off of the X300 mount system there. And that's a good side-by-side of the dimensions. Very similar. The Wild 2 is a little shorter. Just a hair, you know, not a ton. And as opposed to the pressing in this way, toggle switch that way deal of the Surefire, what we have here is a hold in. Bring that up so you can see it. Hold in for momentary. Quick press turns it on. Quick press turns it off. So momentary, on, momentary, like so. Works on both sides. And let's see if I can pop this guy open. This was kind of tricky because I never read instructions. So you press that button down, that opens that up, and then it swivels around, and you can see you've got a nice gasket right there for waterproofing, and there's your battery storage in there. So kind of a trick, a little different deal, and then it just presses back on. And I'll take them at their word that that is water resistant, at least. There's kind of a, that's not a totally fair comparison. This Surefire's a little skanky from the range, but give you a little, bring that in a little closer there. So there are some good up close side-by-sides. And bringing it back onto the pistol there. And pressing it down. And I have kind of medium-sized hands, but that is a perfect reach right there to activate on. And yet it doesn't obstruct the trigger well. And then likewise, if I'm using it with my thumb, press in, momentary. So I like the interface a lot. I'm used to this because it's very similar to the APLC, which I had on this gun for several years. So I do actually prefer that over the Surefire, but that could be somewhat subjective, you know, kind of a user, like your mileage may vary kind of deal. So let's check out the beams. All right, so we have a pretty decently dark night considering I'm in suburbia here. Right in the center of the frame, you should be able to see a little tiny green dot. That is a green chem light exactly 50 yards from this camera, from the tripod. And so I'm going to hit that with the SurefireX300B. And you can see, boy, it is lighting up the entire street. Lots and lots of spill. I'm going to kind of move it over. I don't want to freak my neighbors out too much, but get over there to that darker side. And at 50 yards, if somebody was standing at the back of that black SUV, and I could probably get some decent ID on them as far as if they had a weapon or something like that. Little vague, but it certainly lights up it lights up the whole street. So that's 50 yards with the Surefire. Here is the Inforce Wild2, same deal. Notice it is much more focused. I'm aiming right at the green chem light, and I'm going to move it over to the, I can definitely have more positive ID. I can read the back of that license plate on that black SUV. Let's move it over into the darker part over here to the left. Luckily that house doesn't have windows on the front, so hopefully they're not freaking out too much. But I would have pretty darn clear PID on somebody in that, like in front of that house right there at 50 yards. Actually, that's pushing more like probably 60 yards almost, something like that. So it's a much more focused beam, not nearly as much spill. I'm going to move it over here to that house on the right, and at the very right of your screen right now, those people nobody lives there right now, so that one's probably safe to light up. And that's a pretty good idea of the difference of the two. Now I'm going to turn the camera and we'll check it out at 20 yards. All right, so now I'm facing my own house here, and we're going to do, so the tailgate of the silver Tacoma is exactly 20 yards from the tripod. So let's check that out. Tons and tons of spill. I mean, it is lighting up the whole driveway. And let's check it out with the Wild 2. Still has a lot of spill, but it's not as much. What you're not seeing, well, okay, you can see at the left edge of your camera there, of the screen right there, you can see there's more of a beam, versus with the Surefire, you can see it spilling all the way edge to edge on the screen there. And with the Wild 2, you can see the edge of the spill right there on the left of the screen. But I can make out the license plate much clearer with the Wild 2 versus with the Surefire. I can still make it out with the Surefire. It's just a much more intense, you can see, I'll take it down on the ground there, you can see that super hot spot there on the ground, and then as I move it up, now it's at the back of the truck. There it is, taking it all the way to the garage door. Either one's going to give you pretty good ID at, we're looking at 20 yards and probably another 10 to the garage door there. It's just a much more focused beam with the Inforce, not nearly as much spill out to the right and left. And here's a weird one. I'm at the top of my stairs looking down. There's the Surefire. There's the Inforce. Surefire, Inforce. All right, final test in an upstairs bedroom. We're going to go straight up at the ceiling. SurefireX300, Inforce, and cats. Surefire, Inforce. Surefire, Inforce. Say goodbye, Winston. All right, so that's all I got for today. Like I said, I am not trying to call this the X300 killer or anything like that. I'm making no claims whatsoever of that nature. I'll get it to the range tomorrow for the first session. We'll see if it even works after that. Who knows? But I'll be keeping you updated. I will be taking this to a training here in about a month. We'll put lots of rounds on it. And I'll keep you updated with how it works for me. It's a sample size of 1, obviously. But I bought this with my own money, so I'm under no obligation to pretend like it's great if it isn't. But if it treats me right, I will also let you know that. So that's the beauty of being entirely viewer funded, is I can say whatever I want. So again, thanks all y'all who are kicking down, keeping this thing going. I love you all so much. And until next time, be easy, y'all.